Page 152, O Sole Mio. Very famous melody. Let's look it over. It's one line on page 152 and then all of page 153. There is a repeat sign there in the next to the last line. We have first and second endings, so we'll come back to that a little later. Treble and bass clef, 4/4 time. We're still in the key of F major. There's one flat in the key signature. Let's go through and make sure the hands are just getting out of that 5-finger position, although we come back to it occasionally. Let's just make sure we got the fingerings and all that. Right hand, starting out with the F chords. I mean, it's an F chord, we just put the F on top. And these fermatas, I'll come back to those later. Just right now, I just want trying to get here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, because that's tied, and then 3, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Then they want you to come down here. Different ways of fingering things, and the fingering in the book is fine if you want to use it. I just don't like to come from here to here. We're going to lift up anyway because it's a new phrase, even though there's no phrasing marked in here. It is, but I don't like this. So I'm going to take advantage of the repeated notes. Remember, when in fingering, we can take advantage of repeated notes to change hand positions because you can use different fingers on repeated notes. Here we got both of these notes are repeated. I can change fingers on both notes, so I'm going to go from here to here, from 1, 2 to 2, 4. This is actually quite common. I mean, you got to lift up anyway. They're repeated notes, so just change when you do. Now I'm in position to go on. Here, and then the measure numbers. You see the boxes, or the numbers at the beginning of the line in boxes, those are measure numbers. So I can use measure numbers here. So I'm talking about measure 8, ending here, and then just lift up and come up. Second finger. Because now, even with big hands, you can do this because they're both black keys. So that's fine. Here, and then here, and 1, 3, 1, 2. So again, starting at measure 9, you're here. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 1. Dotted rhythms, hopefully they're not a problem for you anymore. If they are, I encourage you to go back through and wherever they introduce dotted rhythms and work on those. Dotted rhythms should be second nature, in my opinion. You should be able to do them pretty easily. And then going on, measure 12 it is, and this go 3, 4, 1, and 4. And then you repeat back up to wherever you're repeating to. There is no reverse repeat sign, so we go to the beginning. We're just going to lift up and move. Don't have to. You can reach up and do the first one with here, and then do that. Again, all 3 notes are repeated, so we can change fingers on any or all of those notes we need to. So I could go from here to here. I'm keeping the little finger, I'm changing these. It's a little trickier at first, but that fingering will come in handy someday. However, you can always just lift up and do that too. I'll leave that up to you. The last line on page 153, you're here, and then here too. Here, B flat, G. The wavy line thingy, I'll come back to that. And the fermata, you hang on to that and then go on. But for now, it's just, and 4. That's 4, 5. And that's actually very common also, that fingering. Doing that, yeah, I encourage you to do that. A little trickier at first, a little challenged, but still, it comes in handy. Left hand, well, you got the broken chords mostly. 2. This rhythm, look out. 1 and 2 and 3. Straight, just dotted rhythm. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. And this rhythm is all over. 1 and 2 and 3. Let's go to measure 9. It's here. You got B flat, D flat. You can, if you want, reach up and do a 3-2 if you got larger hands. Otherwise, it's a 2-1. Last line at the bottom, there's measure 17, 1 and 2. And then the last two measures, 1 and 2 and 3. Just come down. You're coming to here to here. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. That's pretty common too. We get that in piano. That's fine. Put the hands together. I'll see you. Right now, when I first put the hands together, I just want them to work together. Here. Here. See, those are together. And then here. Pretty straightforward. Let's go down to the bottom of page 153 of measure 17. We're here. We've got 5 notes down here. And then lift up for the 8th note. That's by itself. So you go through and get the hands together, and then go get rid of the hesitation. So it is a nice steady beat at some speed. Then we add in the articulations and the fermatas. Like, whatever. I'm not in our, this is morning. I haven't had enough coffee for this yet. But the idea is you just hang on to those and milk them. When I do it with a metronome, I just double the value and hold each one for 2 counts. That's fine. And then the real rhythm, the beat, really, the pulse starts on the second measure, the first full measure, because you'll notice that first measure only has 3 counts in it. It's the pickup measure. Coming in on beat 2, but look at the end, and it's got 1 count in it. And it's fairly legato here. All connected as best you can. There's no words in this arrangement. There is words to the song, and if you knew what the words were and the sentences in the words, you'd know where the phrases are, where the musical sentences, where you could lift up in the right hand between the musical sentences. Maybe you can feel where they are. Lift up. Maybe every 4 measures or so, you lift up in the right hand. If you feel the phrase, you lift up. Otherwise, connect it. And it's all pretty much straightforward, connected, legato. Now, at the bottom of page 153, you have the wavy line on that chord. The wavy line is an arpeggio line, and it tells you to arpeggiate the chord. We're using these big words. I love it. To arpeggiate something, you play it like an arpeggio. Oh, that made no sense. An arpeggio is when you play the notes in the chord one at a time, from top to bottom or bottom to top. I did that backwards, but you get the idea. So here it was these 5 notes. It would be 1 note at a time. Hold them down. Here, that's an arpeggio. So if I just play a chord, an F chord, and I go, that's an arpeggio. We're just 1 note at a time from one direction or the other, or both, whatever. We get them a lot. I have videos on the arpeggios, but that comes later. Don't bother with those right now. But the point is, we're going to play this 1 note at a time. All 5 notes. We want to hear all 5 notes. And then lift up for the 8th notes. Now the fun part comes. People don't agree on how these ought to be played. There are different ways of interpreting them. You always start from the bottom and go up. There is a symbol they can put in there if they want you to start on the top and go down. That's a different symbol. Well, it's the same symbol, but they have a little arrow at the bottom of it pointing downward, and that tells you to go down. You don't see those very often. Most of the time you go up. I'm guessing because music is really the sound. Music harmony is built from the bottom up. It's the bottom that supports everything, and everything else sits on that bottom. So this makes sense to start with a bottom note. Everything else builds on that. Okay, that's fine. With a fermata, hold on to that a little longer. Milk that for everything it's worth, and then go on in tempo. When I do it with a metronome on this, I'm just going to add one extra beat to it so I can stay with a metronome. I got off here. People don't agree on how this is interpreted. Some people will play the melody note on the beat. No, the melody note here is the top note. They would play that. So it's 1, 2, 3. So all of these would be like a pickup to it to prepare that. 1, 2, 3. Other people will play the bottom note on the beat. 1, 2, 3. And that makes the melody note late. It's like a rubato. It's just you're hesitating on that. It's one. You just hesitated before you played that. Well, that causes that. Here. And also, how fast you roll depends on the interpretation you're choosing. It depends on the piece. Most of these are going to be pretty quick. It's not done rhythmically. It's just a roll. You're just transferring weight over it. Well, you don't really transfer it, you're just kind of adding it to it because you're holding the notes down. It's up to you on how fast you roll this. Because there's a retardando there, you're slowing down, and this is a real emotional song, getting into it, where you might want to slow that down, not roll down. I can go. Slow that way down if I want to. Because of the retardando. Don't have to. I could do a retardando and not slow it down. So experiment with how fast you want to roll it. And that's I'll do it different every time I play it, I'm sure. It's all in the interpretation of it, and you getting into it. Now finally they've added pedal. They add overtones. Well, the problem with their pedaling is they keep it simple. They keep the pedaling simple for you because you got so much to think about. But there are times when it gets it blurry. It makes it blurry. You're mixing sounds together. And it just comes across, ugh. And you get used to hearing that and you think it's all right. So let's take a look at this pedaling here. I'm going to push the notes down first and then the pedal at the beginning. And then leaving it down for all of this. That way you can hear all of that mess, all that mess. That sounds terrible to me, absolutely terrible. So I want to change this. I want to pedal each of these quarter notes individually. And I don't really need to pedal the first two individually, but to keep it consistent, I'm going to do it here and then change it again after I play it, and change it again after I play it, and change it again. That way I don't get all that mess. Ugh. And then lift it up. Now they want you to leave it down. So you can hear all that. Now how can you be, this is supposed to be sort of a love song here, and not just forget love on that one. So I'm going to pedal it the same way on measure 4. I'm going to pedal it the same way as measure 2. Lift it up for the quarter notes. So starting on measure 3, you're here. Lift it up after I play the first quarter note. And then put it down. Lift it up. And going for measures 8 to 9 here. I'm overlapping this. I would like to be able to do this, lift up, So we hear the phrasing, but it messes up the... I don't want the break in the left hand, so I want to keep that. So I just got to pedal it all together. And then I measure 10. You can go ahead and leave it down if you want, because it's all one chord, I suppose, and then change it after you play the next. I'm overlapping the pedal here. They're not showing overlapping pedal indication, or maybe you haven't had that yet. But the point is, when I overlap the pedal is down, and then I play the next notes, and then I lift the pedal up and put it back down again. After I play the notes, it overlaps. So measure 10 is here, and then measure 11, I'm going to play the notes first and then change the pedal. It connects it. Now at the end of the fourth line down, end of the first inning, you're here. Lift up with the hand so there's a little silence before you repeat. So it's... And then you're back to what we were doing before. Now in the last line on page 153, you're here. You can leave it down or you can change it, either one. So on measure 18, you're here. Leave it down or change it. After you play the first note, change it. Either one, I'll leave that up to you. You're kind of building up and you want more sound, so maybe you want to leave it down, because we don't want one note by itself. And then lift it up as you play the eighth notes, because it's by itself. That's the pedaling, my opinion of the pedaling. Again, it gets back to interpreting the music, because how you pedal is also interpreting the music. It can affect it. Maybe you want pedal here, maybe you don't. If you want to separate this, you don't want to separate it. You want the harmonics, you want the overtones here, you don't want them. It's all part of, you have to listen very carefully to the sound. Then speed is a fairly slow piece. This is a love song. Let's just face it, it's a love song. I'm not in the mood for that, but okay. I forgot dynamics. Shame on me. Dynamics at loud, that's the melody. Keep everything else in the background, and whatever you think loud is. The legato there is more articulation. That tells you to play it smoothly. I already told you to play it all connected. Okay, so we got the legato covered. So you're loud. Wow. Left hand soft. And the whole piece is kind of loud. Once you get to know it and you're interpreting it, you might get a little louder and softer as you feel it. You can come down and up on the loudness. The last line on page 153. That's sort of the climax of the piece right there. You're very loud here. You're ending it loud in the... That's loud. Everything else can come up. Let's keep it under. Keep it under this. like to play this with you very slowly to double check all the notes and rhythms. I'm not going to do any dynamics. I'm going to play both hands about the same. I'm going to double the value of all the fermata notes. So we'll just hold them for what, 2 counts or an extra count or something. We'll do the repeat the whole bit. So I'm going to give us 5 counts because we come in on beat 2. So here and here. I'm going to pedal it as I suggested. So let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, go. Hold, 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 and then 2, 3. 1 and 2 and 2. And 2. Repeat. Hold, hold, hold. Second ending.